lesson for this unit. And now we're dealing with multiplying and dividing integers, so positive and negative numbers. These rules are really, really, really important. Pause the video, write them down. They should be everywhere because these rules are really important to memorize. So what it says is a positive number and a positive number will give you a positive answer. A positive number and a negative number will give you a negative answer. A negative and a negative will give you a positive. And this only applies to multiplication and division. So make sure you write for multiplication and division. Again, like I said, write this all over your notes. Make sure you have this written down. You will use it a lot. So what does that mean? Let's look at this. 11 times 9. Well, before I even start any of my multiplication setup, I want to think about this. Okay, I have a negative and a positive. If it doesn't have a sign in front of it, it's positive. The little guy's positive. So negative and a positive. So I look over at my rules. Positive and a negative will give me a negative answer. Before I do anything, I'm writing equals negative at the bottom of my page. When I do that, I don't have to worry about positive and negatives again. That's it. So what I can do is I can just say 11 times 9 because I have this already written down for my answer and I don't have to worry about it anymore. So then I'm going to set it up. 2 digits on top, 1 digit on bottom. So 1 times 9 is 9. 9 times 1 is 9. My answer is 99. So 11 times 9 is 99. My answer is negative. So since I wrote that on the side, I don't have to worry about it anymore. So the answer is going to be negative 99. So let's look at a division problem. So we have negative 10 divided by negative 5. So before we do anything, I'm going to write my big equals sign so I remember it. And I'm going to look at this. A negative number and another negative number. So negative and a negative gives me a positive answer. So I'm going to put positive over here. So now I can ignore the positives and negatives, and it's just a simple division problem. So 10 goes in the house, 5 comes outside. I know that 5 times 2 is 10. So 5 times 2 is 10. That'll give me nothing left over. I have 2. Well, I know it's going to be a positive 2. On the test, it's multiple choice. So some of the times they'll give you positive 2 and negative 2. And if you don't know these rules, sometimes you're like, oh, well, I know the answer is 2. I don't know if it's positive 2 or negative 2. So you have to know these rules, especially when we get into the algebra, when we get into the geometry. As we get more complex, these rules will apply over and over. You're going to see them over and over and over again. I'm going to say them over and over and over again. So let's try another one. We have negative 24 divided by 12. So negative, positive. My answer is going to be negative. All right, now I can ignore those and rewrite it without positives and negatives. 24 goes in the house, 12 comes outside. Again, I know 12 times 2 is 24. And if I didn't know that, I could come over here and I could check myself. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 20. So 24. So 2 with no remainders. Negative 2. All right, I'm going to have you guys do one on your own, and then we'll come back and we'll review. So 6 times negative 34. So first rule when we're dealing with positive and negative numbers, when we're multiplying and dividing, let's deal with the signs first. So I'm going to write my big equal sign. We have a positive and a negative. Positive and a negative gives me a negative number. So then I just have 6 times 34. 34 is 2 digits, so I'm going to put it on top. And then I can go ahead and just multiply it like we've been doing. So 4 times 6 will give me 24. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 gives me 20. So I have 204. And I know it has to be negative because that's what I wrote at the beginning of my problem. All right, I'm going to give you another one to try on your own. And then I'm going to show you kind of more of a complicated one for fun, and I'll give you another one to practice. First things when we look at one of these problems, we look and we see what's our answer is going to be, positive or negative. So we have a negative and a negative. So negative and a negative, our answer is positive. So I can rewrite this without positive and negative. So I have 120 times 20. So 120 has 3 digits, so I'm going to put it on top, 20 with 2 digits on the bottom. So then I can go ahead and multiply like we've been multiplying. So this first row should be all zeros because we're multiplying 0 by all of these. I'm going to cross that out, add a 0 here, 2 times 0, 2 times 2, and 2 times 1. So I got 2,400. And I know my answer is positive because I wrote that symbol over here. So what happens when you have more than one number that you're multiplying or dividing? So let's look at this one. Negative 3 times 4 times negative 2 times negative 8 times negative 10. So when we look at this one, we're going to break it up and look at 2 numbers at a time. So our first one, we're going to look at negative 3 times 4. Well, I know that I have a negative and a positive, so I'm going to go ahead. My answer is going to be negative, and 3 times 4 will give me 12. So once I have that, I'm going to take my 12 down here. I'm going to eliminate those. We already dealt with that. And I'm going to multiply it by the next number. So 12 times negative 2. Negative and a negative will give me a positive answer. And then I have 12 times 2, which will give me 24. So positive 24. And erase this. I've dealt with that too. So times negative 8. Positive and a negative. I'm going to take my answer down here. Positive, negative, my answer is going to be negative. So I have 24 times 8. 24. And again, I'm rearranging it just so that it's easier for me to deal with. So 4 times 8 gives me 32. 16, 17, 18, 19, 192. And it's negative because I already wrote it out down here. So then we have 192 times negative 10. So negative and a negative give me a positive. So I know my ultimate answer is going to be positive. And then I'm going to go ahead and rearrange this. So 2 times 0, 0 times 9, 0 times 1. Eliminate that, drop down 1. 2 times 1, 1 times 9, 1 times 1. So I get 1,920. So again, the multiplication is the same. We're still doing the multiplication we've been doing. The rules still apply. We're just taking it a chunk at a time. Anytime you can chunk something and just look at this. If I ignore all of this and I just look at this, negative 3 times 4, that's easy for us to do, right? 3 times 4 is 12. That's easy. And then I take it down. Each time I can break it up into something smaller is really important. And we'll get more into taking these longer equations and looking at each part in the next unit. But I want you to go ahead and try something like this, where we're multiplying multiple numbers with positives and negatives. So I hope you had a chance to do this. I hope you really tried it. And you broke it down into smaller pieces so it's easier to work with. So let's look at these first numbers. We have 8 times negative 6. Let's ignore that negative 3 for now. So we have 8 times negative 6. And I'm going to cross them out so I know that I've already dealt with them. Well, we have positive 8 and negative 6. Positive and a negative equals a negative. So I know my answer is going to be negative. And then I sit here and I have to think, what's 8 times 6? Well, I know 8 times 6 is 48. So my answer is going to be negative 48. Well, now I have this negative 3. So I have negative 48 times negative 3. Negative and a negative. Negative and a negative. I'm going to have a positive answer. So you should already have a positive answer looking back at what you did. So 48 times 3. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 4 is 12. Plus 1 plus 2 is 14. So my answer right here is 144. And I know it's positive, again, because I already put that positive number there, so I didn't have to think about it. All right, so that's the end of Unit 2.